Hello, I'm Shiv Mittal and I'm a first year student at the IPM program at IIM Bodh Gaya. I view quants as a section which has three parts broadly, which is conceptual learning, the second is extensive practice, and the third is testing. I'll go phase by phase explaining what every step means to me. The conceptual learning part is basically where I was able to interact with every chapter, solving at least 10 to 20 questions from them and watching lectures, solving sheets from different coaching centers and understand what was the logic that lied behind every mathematical concept. One important thing that I followed here was making a formula notebook. Now this formula notebook helped me extremely in my revision process. It was where I could, before every exam, go through the formula book and learn all the concepts all at once and revise all my concepts clearly. I also incorporated all the tough questions which I couldn't solve before and wrote them down in my formula book with the answer, and I understood the logic behind them. Then I moved on to my extensive practice stage where I solved sectional sheets and sectional timed sheets, which is more important, and I want to focus on the time aspect of this, is where you do it with time, because in a competitive exam, especially like JIPMAT, where you are faced with a time pressure, you need to get more adaptive to that situation. You need to master that decision-taking ability where you are able to make a decision in a split second, whether to leave a question, whether to do it that time, or whether to come back and mark it for review. And that is where the sectional time tests come into play. So to do this, what I used to do, even if I was solving even 20 questions from a mix of chapters, I used to time myself. I used to give myself 1.5 minutes per question. So let's say if I was solving 30 questions, I would give myself 45 minutes to do this, and I would try to solve as many questions as possible. Because the main aim of any competitive exam is to solve as many questions as possible with the highest accuracy, but with the lowest attempt of wrong questions in the lowest possible time. And now to do this, this is the perfect exercise that you all can follow. Coming to the extensive practice phase, what I did was I practiced a lot of questions from varieties of sources that I got, but I had a step-by-step into. So what I did was I found NCERT of 9th, 10th and 11th and practiced few questions from that, and I got an R.S. Agarwal textbook which has simple arithmetic questions that do come in JIPMAT. Then I went on to do my coaching material, which had a lot of questions, but I did not solve all of these questions at my own pace. What I did was I solved them in a time limited manner. So what this entailed was that I gave one question 1.5 minutes, which meant that suppose I was solving 30 questions, I would give myself around 45 minutes to do the same, and I would be faced with a time pressure situation. And that is exactly what you face in a competitive exam, especially like JIPMAT. So going from question to question and making that split decision, whether to leave that question at that time or whether to solve it and maybe arrive at the answer or maybe not, that is the decision that you need to master. You need to master that ability, and that is what is most important. Secondly, what I did was solving varieties of sectional tests from a mix of all the chapters, and this gives me a mixed revision rather than just solving questions from one single chapter. When you know that you're solving the questions from time, speed and distance, you know that these are the formulas that you have to apply. But when you solve a mixed variety of questions, you don't know from where any question can come. It can be in any random corner of the textbook, and you need to be able to solve those kind of questions. And that is exactly what I did. And the third, test taking. Test taking was perhaps the most important part of my process, because it was where I learned my weaknesses, I learned how to improve on them, and I also, more importantly, to capitalize on my strengths. One technique that I followed while giving mocks, which helped me a lot, was a 3-round strategy which I learned from my mentor himself. So what this 3-round strategy entails is that you go in a round strategy. So the first round, whenever a mock loads, whenever there are 20 questions in front of you in a mock, so you go question by question, scanning each question and solving the ones you find the most easiest, the ones which you can do almost verbally. And then in the second round, you go through the questions which you have some idea, but it takes a little bit of time to go through them and you don't know if you will ever reach the final step or not. So this you do in the second round. And this round strategy is extremely helpful because by the time of every round, you have read all the questions again and again, and these questions keep coming back to you. So even at any point during the exam, if you feel like yes, you know the answer to a particular question, you immediately remember yes, this was the concept behind it and go back to solving that question. And then the third round, what it entails is solving the questions which you have no idea about but might have had a faint idea where you must have learned it in a coaching class or something, but you can't recollect the formula of it. So you try and go behind them and solve them. This way you can capitalize on the time, you can get the most out of the paper and actually maybe solve the most questions in a limited amount of time. So this was my round strategy and this was what helped me to ace my quant section. Thank you.